Alrighty, well, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another PhotoJoseph photo moment. This one is a little bit special, and if you're watching on Aaron's channel right now and you're wondering why the heck you're looking at me and not Aaron, it will all become clear soon enough. So first of all, let's just do a quick little introduction of all of our guests, because this is a special show. We're bringing in multiple guests. The whole point of today's show is to talk about how to bring in guests over very high quality into a live streaming show. So just a quick little round robin to see who's here today. We have got Tommy in the room. Hello, Tommy. Good morning.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We have got Aaron in the room. We'll see if I can time this right to get up
Here
the
I am.
name tags at the same time. There we go. Excellent. And we also have Frederick Van Johnson in the room. Frederick, good morning to you.
Hey.
So here is the plan for today. We are going to talk about all the tech that has gone into this. We're going to show off all the different pieces. And I'm going to show kind of over time, over the course of the show, keep coming back to demos of how the different pieces are coming together to make this whole thing work. But the first thing that I need to do is give a huge thank you to the DVE store. They are the ones who have made this show possible by providing additional ATEM streaming bridges for us to use. And that is the core, the crux of what we're doing today. So now I'm also going to just let you know in advance, I am both on the show, obviously, and running the show. And there's a lot going on. So when you keep seeing me glance away and or if I go to the wrong input, no normal person should ever have to do this at the same time, but that's just the way it is today. So the ATEM Streaming Bridge ATEM Streaming Bridge is what we are kind of highlighting here. That is the piece of hardware that makes this all possible. And I'm actually going to bring Aaron on for just a moment before we do a proper introduction of him so that Aaron can explain a little bit about what the streaming bridge is. Hopefully you read the notes, Aaron, and knew that I was going to throw this at you. So do you want to tell the audience, and let's see, I think I didn't get your audio turned on, right? Nope, I got you. Tell the audience what the bridge is, what its purpose is, and how it works.
Sure thing. So the streaming bridge is a little device from Blackmagic, a little gray rectangle, and its entire purpose is to accept the streaming encoded output from an ATEM Mini Pro or ISO, and then turn it into an HDMI or SDI signal. So you can use it for a bunch of different things, but that's the whole idea. Take your streaming output from the ATEM, turn it into a signal you can display on a TV, or run it into a switcher like the ATEM Mini.
Pretty straightforward. So now this device is a one-way device, meaning that Aaron and Tommy and Frederick are all sending me a signal, but there's no way for them to see what's going on here. So for us to be able to be involved in a conversation, we actually have a chat going on in Zoom. So let me just bring this up real quick just to show you what this looks like. So here we have a separate Zoom call happening with the four of us on there. And in the corner where you see me, they are actually seeing the program output. At least that's the plan.
I think we just see you still.
You just see me still. Okay, this sometimes is a little bit too much
I can show
inception.
it. I got it on my screen.
Oh, I know what's happening.
over to
Hold
me.
on, let's go to, there we go. Now we got the right one up. Had to get the right screen up. So you're seeing a little bit of inception here, but the Zoom window that you're seeing is what I'm looking at to see the the three of them, and then there's the window that has the program out, which is what they're watching. So what this actually means is that they are going to see, and I'll come back later on and explain more of what's happening here, but they are actually going to see the image a little bit out of sync with the dialogue, because we're talking on Zoom, we're hearing each other on Zoom, which is essentially real time, but the video that they're seeing has been looped back through the program out and coming back into Zoom, so it's got a little bit of a delay. Their video to me is delayed by about a second. It's a little bit less than a second. We've measured it's pretty darn good with the ATEM Streaming Bridge, but that of course then has to go back to them, so a second plus delay in that regard. But that's how we're able to do it. So it is two simultaneous connections. There's the stream from them to me, and then a back channel conversation on Zoom. And you could use Skype or anything else for that. It doesn't really matter. It's just that's what we're using today. So now the reason that the way that we're bringing in all four of these calls, all three calls plus me, we're routing everything through a big ATEM. So let me bring that up, if I can remember which preset I had that on. Now I'm just realizing I actually don't remember which one that was, so give me just a second here. Let's see, I think I might have actually labeled it. There we go. So this is the rack that is kind of running everything right now. And you can see up at the top, there's three streaming bridges that are all propped up. Those are the three inputs from them. Each one of them is streaming directly to one of those bridges. And then those are all routing into the ATEM 2ME, which is right about in the middle of the screen. If you look down at the bottom, I know it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but there's a rack of hyperdecks. Each one of those can record, I'm not actually recording it right now, but each one of those can record a different ISO feed. And what that means is that I can I can record each one of their inputs separately, totally clean, with their audio totally clean, no muxed audio, no scaling, nothing happening, and then I can remix the show later if I needed to. Now, you don't have to be using a big ATEM for this. You could be doing this. You could actually feed them directly into an ATEM Mini, but then you wouldn't be able to do this. And this is the big part of what we're doing here with the big ATEM, where we can do this 4-up view. And this is something called Super Source, which is only available on the bigger ATEM. So that's part of what we're doing today with this. If you were to bring them into an ATEM Mini, you could just do 2 at a time. You could do a split screen or a picture-in-picture, but you couldn't do the 4-up like this. Another alternative option would be to have a capture card, especially if you're on a tower, either Mac or PC. You can get a Blackmagic capture card that has 4 HDMI inputs, and then you could feed one into each one of those inputs, and then use software like Mimo Live to mix and match them however you wanted to. So a lot of different ways to do it. We're kind of going pretty high end at it this time, but that's what we're working with. So let's now let's do some proper introductions of each one of our guests. I'm going to go in order as we see them on screen here. So Tommy, I'm going to bring you up first, and Tommy, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your channel, and what you're doing here on YouTube.
Really records light. What's happening here?
Well, we lost
okay.
you for a moment there. I don't know what happened, so I jumped away from you, but you're back. So go ahead.
Well, so I review lights and stuff. I've got a couple of them on behind me, and that's basically what I do on YouTube. I also do other camera stuff too, but people kind of know me for lights.
Fair enough.
That's it.
I'll take it. Also, I want to let you guys know that we are monitoring the chats in here, and the chat both on Aaron's channel and on my channel. If you want to ask a question in today's chat, I need you to write the word question into the chat. That will highlight it on my screen so I know exactly which ones I need to pull up, and we will then be pulling those up in a little bit here. So thank you, Tommy, for the intro. Let's move on to Aaron and give us a little intro to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Aaron. My channel is mainly about small portable live streaming gear. I talk a lot about the ATEM Mini since it is the smallest and most powerful switcher out there, in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of it. Got tutorials. I talk about how to do things like this with the ATEM Mini, and reviewing gear and other things related to live streaming and live video production.
Very good. Sounds real. And I forgot to bring up my little animation of your page. So everybody, of course, make sure you subscribe to Aaron, subscribe to Tommy. And in just a moment here, we're going to see Mr. Frederick, and we're going to learn all about Frederick. What's up, buddy?
Hey, guys. Hey, thanks for having me on this, Joseph. I'm excited to be here with you guys. So my YouTube channel is kind of it's an addition to my podcast. So I run a podcast called This Week in Photo. That's where the bulk of my footprint is. And interesting note, most of the stuff that I have that I use to produce the podcast and put stuff on YouTube and interview people, mostly photographers, is directly a result from the people that are on this show right now and watching their YouTube channels and purchasing things based on what they've said. Aaron, thank you for spending all my money. But that's what I do. I run This Week in Photo. I'm the host of the show. It's one of the longest running photography podcasts out there. We're about a decade old. And the YouTube channel is kind of if you really need to see us, look at the YouTube channel, but we're primarily a podcast.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And I guess I once again neglected to bring up the animation to show your channel. So that's the channel you're looking for, This Week in Photo. Head over there and subscribe. Yep. All right, let's bring this back up. So now we are going to jump into the Q&A in just a moment here, start the Q&A, and then come back. Before we jump into the first question, though, I want to show a little bit of the back end of the ATEM side. I know a lot of people watching are familiar with the ATEM Mini and what that interface looks like. So I thought I'd have a little bit of fun here and show you how this is being built up with the larger ATEM. And if you look at what you see on screen right now, there's a lot going on. There is an animated background. There's the 4 of us in what's called a super source. That's what allows all 4 of us to be on screen. And then there's actually another layer, that kind of purple box around it. Then there's the text, which the text will totally come back to later. But the animated background, the 4 of us, and the purple boxes on there, that's what I want to show you right now. So let me do a little bit of switcheroo here and bring this up. So here we go. So this, get the right one. Yeah, there we go. Got to hit the right button. This is the interface, which looks exactly like the ATEM Mini interface. If I get it just a little bit bigger, but you can see there's a lot more buttons happening here for the big ATEM. And essentially, we have multiple keys coming in to build up the super source. If we look at the program first, you see it says HPD6. That's HyperDeck 6. That's one of the HyperDeck players out there. That's actually what's running the animated background. And then we look over here at the super source, and we have a 4-up super source. Each one of these boxes is bringing in one of the callers. So box 1 is the ATEM Mini. Now this is a little bit odd, but the way that I've got this routed, my ATEM Mini is sitting on my desk, and that is feeding into one of the inputs on the big ATEM. So I can actually switch angles from my little desktop setup here, that's just what I have plugged in here, but then all that's routing into the bigger ATEM. And so that first input on the big ATEM would be, let's bring this back up here, would be the ATEM Mini coming in. Then we go into box 2, and their streaming bridge number 1 is coming in there. Box 3 is bridge number 2, and box 4 is bridge number 3. And each one of those are laid out using the tools in here. And then finally, there is a simple art piece on top. This little graphic right here, it's just a PNG basically with the kind of glowy, purpley stuff on it. And that is laying on top of the callers. So let me just do this. I'll switch back to this 4-up view, and I'm going to go in there and toggle pieces off. So let's see, the on air, get the right one here. Oop, gotta get the right thing. Now I have to redo my window size here. There we go. I should know what I'm doing here, but occasionally I don't. Oh, wrong mix effect. There we go. There's the right panel. Okay, so there's the purple graphic that's on top. I can't just turn off the super source individual layers without going through one at a time, but if I do one at a time, you see those go off like so. And then that background again is that animated piece, which I'm not going to stop and play that back, but that's a whole separate layer to it. So then on top of that, we have the other graphics, which we will come into in a moment. But why don't we go ahead and bring up some questions. So I'm going to bring up the question area, let's see if this all works properly. Yes, all of this is a big, let's hope everything works kind of a day. So Chris W. is asking the question, how much bandwidth is this using total? That's a really interesting question because it's all really about the bandwidth coming into my studio. So each one of you are streaming possibly at a different bandwidth. Tommy, do you know what your setting is, what you're streaming to me at?
Yeah, I'm at streaming high, and it's sending 5.4 megabits per second.
Okay, streaming high, 5.4 megabits. And let me make sure, yeah, I do have everybody's audio back on. And Aaron?
Yeah, also streaming high, and I see 5.6 right now.
Okay, and Frederick, what do you have?
About the same. Streaming high, I'm at 5.3 right now.
Okay, so everybody's using the same streaming preset. So that's 15 plus 16, 17 megabit coming in. So that's what they're sending to me. So that on my end in my studio, that is being downloaded. Then my stream back out is just a standard, same basically 6 megabit stream streaming out, just like I always would. And so it's only that one stream going out. So it doesn't require massive bandwidth. Right, with the 3 of them coming in, 16, let's call it 20, you definitely want to have, I'd say, a minimum of 25, maybe 30 megabit down to be able to do this. But also keep in mind that the ATEM hardware, the ATEM Mini hardware, will give you a lower resolution or lower bitrate streaming that still looks really, really good. So now I see Aaron's glitching out a little bit, and I obviously have no idea why. I know Aaron at some point might decide to stop and restart his stream just to see what happens, but that's part of the beauty too, is that will be completely independent from me, and other than seeing him disappear and come back, we won't really see any effect of that. But yeah, it's not particularly massive bandwidth that's needed on this, and the majority of what's needed is the download, that's the cheap stuff, right? That's what everybody can get, is the upload that's harder to come by. Let's see here. Another question come up from APN TV. Why do you need the border graphic? Can't you put a border around each window on SuperSource? You can in SuperSource, but it's very limited. It's basically just a solid border. You can do bevels and things like that. But I wanted to do it a little bit fancier, if you will, just kind of a little bit of a glow to it. It's just an artistic choice, but you're absolutely right. Within the SuperSource settings, you can draw a border, you can define a border, define the size, and like I said, add a bevel and some other things to it. But I just decided to do it this way. But yeah, you're right. We don't have to, for sure. I want to remind you too that we are chatting on both channels. So I'm going to slide over to Aaron's channel right now, and I see there's a couple questions here. Thank you all for putting the word question in there. That is absolutely needed to make sure that I see it. And let's just bring some of these up. So let's go back to the chat and bring up the first one from here to record. Was all the effort to get this working worth it, or would you direct folks to take another approach? You know, this is why we're doing this. It's really about the quality. Without the streaming bridges, then you're just relying on a Zoom call or something like that. And I've done a lot of that, and this is definitely a better quality. Aaron, you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a lot of effort, and for a single sort of like 1 hour long event like this, I would say maybe it's not worth it. But one of the benefits of this is that it is very composable. So whereas like a Zoom call or any of those sort of event-based switchers, those are made for one-off things, dead easy to get going. This, I would say, is a lot better for if you are doing a regular show, recurring, with lots of remote guests that are going to be different every time, where you want to be able to like handle failures more gracefully than the entire thing going offline. Like we could see there was some glitches on my feed for some reason, I don't know why. But if we wanted to troubleshoot that, you know, I could very easily just drop out of the stream and Joseph can start switching between the other three guests while I troubleshoot on my end, clean it up, change different bit rates, all that kind of troubleshooting. That's possible because this is all modular and made up of all these small pieces. So I do think it's very specific use case, and I wouldn't recommend it for everybody to just like I'll run all shows like this, but there are a lot of benefits to this kind of approach.
Yeah, I think I do some work with clients where I'm basically producing shows where the guests are calling in from all over the country, and this type of a setup would allow us to record it at a much higher quality than what we have in the past, which has been basically either relying on Zoom or some other IP-based video chat system, which is very limiting. The advantage of that is that means that your guests only need to have a webcam, right? They can just open up their laptop and log into Zoom or Facebook or FaceTime or whatever you're using. To do this, everybody has to have their own hardware configuration. So that's actually where I want to go next on this. Tommy, why don't we start with you? Why don't we get a little tour of your hardware, kind of explain what's going on there and what you're sending us, and then you can show us a bit of the room as well.
Sure. So for my setup here, let's go over here. Yeah, so this is I just have the ATEM Mini Pro as my streaming thing. I don't have all Joseph's fancy streaming equipment with his crazy ATEM and bridges and things. I just have the ATEM over here. Going into that is the Mix Pre 3, and that's just what I'm using for my microphone. And that's, of course, going into this first input here on the ATEM Mini Pro, and then Ethernet out through this whole streaming bridge thing. Joseph sent me a file with information on how to basically send my stream over to him. And so it's just like I'm streaming. It's the same setup as streaming to YouTube from the ATEM Mini Pro, but I'm just instead streaming to Joseph Tube. And, over here, so I have two Hollyland devices here, and I can't really show. There's one here, and that's taking the feed in from this camera. This is my Fuji X-T3 with a VMAT battery power setup. Because I don't want it to die. And then I have the second one going from the ATEM Mini Pro out into this device, which is just a monitor that's VMAT battery powered also. And so I can monitor my live streams and everything from that.
That is
that's
monster.
Also what it is. It's also what I use to monitor myself when I'm just making regular videos, because it's convenient to be able to just instead of having this whole multi-view out setup, I'll just go over to Program and pick a camera, and I'll use that for focus peaking and everything. It's super convenient. But that's pretty much my setup for how I'm doing this whole live stream situation.
Right on. Thank you for the tour. Aaron, same question to you. Let's bring you up here.
Sure. Yeah, I'm using my normal live stream setup that I do for my own shows. So I've got my Lumix G7. It's permanently installed on my desk up there. That's the main camera you're seeing me from. And then my desk situation is my nice new finished white painted rack gear with the ATEMs down here. And this is, again, the one pushing to Joseph. So this is just streaming directly to him. And I've got the 4 video inputs in here, and I'm actually only really using 2 of them right now. This is my multi-view for it, my camera, my second camera, which is this wireless one over here, ZB1. And I have our Zoom call routed in here too, just in case, so I can show you our Zoom call. That's what that looks like right now. Sorry for the infinity effect. I am using for my computer. I'm on Zoom through my Mac Mini down here on the desk, and I've got a dual monitor setup. Right, so I've got my main monitor for looking at my at the YouTube console and our Zoom chat and the ATEM software control, as well as a second monitor, which is routed up into this little thing, so I can see us on Zoom, and I can look at that, and it's pretty close to the lens. So when I'm looking at the lens, I'm directly looking at the lens here, and then if I look over to our Zoom call, it's not too far away from direct eye contact. At some point, I'm going to put that into a teleprompter setup, but that's basically my setup here, and yeah.
Very cool. So this is, I think it's worth pointing out that all this stuff you're seeing on the back end isn't needed. We're all, YouTube geeks, and we have fun doing this stuff, and some of us do it commercially as well. But you don't need all of this. What you do need is the ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Pro ISO. That's the piece that allows you to stream to the bridge that's on my end. What you plug into that is up to you. And if you were trying to set up a remote call-in system where you were, let's say, sending packages out to guests and you wanted to just send them something as simple as possible, you could send them a pre-configured ATEM Mini Pro and a decent camera with HDMI out plugged into it and a microphone and maybe a light if that's what you want to do, and that's it. Once they get that and set it up, they start streaming. And it's not the kind of thing you'd send to a total neophyte who doesn't know anything about cameras, but if you're dealing with a reasonably tech-savvy guest, then that's something that you could definitely do relatively simply, and I'd say relatively cheaply, given the alternative cost of having a satellite truck go out and hook all this stuff up. So, Frederick, let's jump over to you and allow you to give a little tour of your setup there.
Yeah. So my setup is a little different than you three. Mine is more, I would say, on the pedestrian side. And what I was solving for was going for, I'm a content creator. I'm a photographer at my core. I'm a content creator, and I publish podcasts and YouTube videos and courses, and I'm in Zoom meetings and Skype meetings and all that stuff. So I wanted a setup that was easy to just turn on, sit down, and go. The ATEM Mini allows me to do that and then sort of produce everything before it goes out to whatever service that's going to accept that, whether it be Zoom or Skype or whatever. So with that said, the way that this thing is set up here is that camera that you're looking at me on now is a G9, which is not normally there because I don't normally do this kind of setup. It's normally just this camera, which is that one is an old GH4 with a relatively cheap LCD panel in a teleprompter prism box. And the reason that that's there is it allows me to drag my Zoom meeting up onto the teleprompter and keep eye contact with the viewers. And also, if I'm doing scripted type things, I can just throw it on the teleprompter and go to town there. So works out really well. It's just a lot of stuff in here. Audio-wise, like Tommy, I'm running through a Mix Pre 3. This is a Shure SM7B microphone, and it's running through a Mix Pre 3, which is then coming into a Mac Mini. I've only got one display connected to the Mac Mini because I kind of like a clean desk right now. I haven't had the need to go multiple monitors, although I'm feeling the tug towards multiple monitors. But one Mac Mini plugged into this guy. I've got another view here of plugged into the ATEM is a MacBook Pro. That's this guy over here, which is showing the feed. And that's it. So with this setup, I can have great audio. I can do scripted programming where I'm reading either the top and tail of a program, or I can do a Zoom call where I'm making eye contact of, good lighting. The lights in here are, let me bring that up again. So these lights are from Elgato. They are the Elgato key lights, and they're okay. They work pretty well, although I'm thinking about upgrading them, but that's pretty much it. Everything is switched through a Stream Deck. I have a Stream Deck Mini that I use for most shows, and then I have the big giant Stream Deck XL for more complicated things, but that generally sits in the drawer until I need it. Most things I do are with the little tiny Stream Deck that's on the desktop here. And that's it, and then I go to town. My ethos around all this stuff is I don't want a lot of stuff. Joseph and I've known Joseph for what? A long time. Let's just say over a decade. And we've kind of been the roadrunner and the coyote. We're the roadrunner and the coyote when it comes to our mindset around gear. Joseph is the Doc Brown in the laboratory cooking up amazing things with multiple rack-mounted ATEMs and all that stuff. And I'm the guy that's trying to get rid of stuff off my desk. If I can do it with less stuff and still have a higher quality, that's me. You know, so in fact, I'm looking at getting rid of the Mix Pre 3 and upgrading this microphone so I can not have the Mix Pre 3 on my desktop. So it's Joseph has or all of you guys have corporate clients where you do this stuff for. I am my own client. And I have to satisfy me, and me wants less. So that's how I do it.
Fair enough.
I don't have any corporate clients.
Tommy's client is YouTube.
No corporate clients.
No, this is strictly a hobby.
Nice.
It's fun. We get a little bit.
That's
geeky.
how it starts, Tommy. That's how it starts.
And let me just bring up my setup here as well. Just so you can kind of see what's happening here, but. It's a bit of a ridiculous battle station right now. I'm going to move the mic so you can still hear me. But on my main display, I'm not doing a whole lot here except for paying attention to what's happening and monitoring stuff. But over here is Mimo Live, which is running the graphics. We'll come back to that. The chat is down here, which is on a separate machine pumping into Mimo Live. Again, we'll come back to that. I have shortcuts here that allow me to trigger things like bringing up the guest names or saying, hey, thanks again to our sponsor for today's show, the DVE Store. So once again, if you do decide to make a purchase today, link down below, DVE Store, dvstore.com. Check them out. And so that's all on here. Let's go ahead and turn that back off. And what else is on here? Then there's this iPad, which is running running macros for the ATEM. And over here we see a multi-view. And so that's all set up. And then I do have a camera up here. You can't really see it. But like Frederick's, I actually have my program out routed into a small monitor on here on a little Parrot teleprompter so that I too can look directly into the eyes of whoever I'm talking to, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's go back to this view, bring this up, and I think now we're going to jump into questions. There's a ton of questions coming in, so I think this is where we're going to spend most of the rest of the time. I do still want to come back to the demo setup a couple times to show off a few more pieces, but with that said, this one's kind of a repeat question, but just to make sure we cover it, Lindsay was asking, what is the major benefit to this over standard web conferencing services? So much more cost and work. What is the added value? Quality. It's quality, quality, quality. That's really what it comes down to. Plus the ability to record the ISOs. That's a really important part of this. And I know all this because I've been doing this for a particular client. If, let's say we were doing this over Zoom, there's no way to get the individual feeds out of Zoom short of doing what's called screen scraping, where you are basically lay it out, you crop a part of the screen, and you kind of replicate that into some other switching software. Your audio is all mixed together. If you're using Skype, Skype does have NDI support, which means I can make every individual caller an NDI feed, which I can then pull up in software like Mimo Live and remix them. I could even then record those ISOs of the video, but you don't get ISOs of the audio. The NDI feed on Skype muxes everybody's audio together. If you are using Mimo Live, there is a service in there called Mimo Caller, which is effectively what we're doing here, but all in software, and then I can record the video and the audio as an ISO. However, it's somewhat unreliable. If the guest is on Wi-Fi, it's very unreliable, and the quality is definitely not what we're getting here today. So again, it comes down to quality. And the ability to record all those ISOs for later mixing is a huge part of it. If you want to do a live show, or maybe it's not even live, maybe you're just recording an interview that you're going to edit later, but you still want to have a kind of multi-up display like this for the benefit of the people that are on the show producing it or whatever, then this gives you all of that capability. Oh, so that's that. Let's see here. Kauto says, would something like Discord be a good alternative with regards to Zoom on talkback feeds? I'm not a Discord user, but I think that's more a streaming system, right?
I mean, any video chat will work really. Like we're using Zoom just to talk to each other. That's how we're hearing ourselves, and it literally is no part of the production other than that. So any sort of video chat that you can get multiple people in would work fine.
But is Discord as a video chat? I thought Discord was a...
It's mostly text chat, but there's also video chat.
Oh, okay.
I don't really use the video chat part of it.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Hardy asks, are you all on home internet connections? Do ISPs throttle down the stream as compared to a commercial connection? I'll take it first. I am on I'm on a business connection. It is a business, and in fact, I had a second internet line installed last night, comparing it to my original one, which does seem to be doing better right now, so that's good. But it is a 600 down, 35 up is what I'm paying for right now, and it is definitely clean, and there shouldn't be any kind of throttling. Tommy, what do you have over there?
I have residential gigabit fiber, both up and down. So,
God.
Well, now we're all just
Yeah, same with me. I've got residential gigabit fiber running directly into this building, so gigabit up and down.
I hate all of you.
Seriously.
So I've got Comcast Business, and I'm basically the same as Joseph, 100 down and 20-ish up if the weather's correct. And, it seems to work fine though.
good. Yeah, and I don't think there should be any throttling happening because of live streaming, and especially the numbers that we're talking about are not big, right? A 6 megabit upstream is not big. So that's not something that any ISP should be concerned with. It's not like when I'm backing up terabytes of files to Dropbox all day long that I normally am. This is much lighter weight than that.
Mm-hmm.
Koto also asks, have you tried international connections on the streaming bridges? Can OBS stream into Streaming Bridge? So I have not tried international yet. These are great questions. I was hoping to have
I
an
did,
international.
actually.
Oh, you did? Okay, Aaron, take it.
Yeah, I did a test a couple of weeks ago with someone from Germany pushing to my streaming bridge here, and it was almost exactly the same as what we're experiencing here. Like no additional latency, still fantastic quality. Again, it's still just a 6 megabit stream, so it was fantastic.
Nice. And then the second part, can OBS stream into it? Interesting question.
Officially, no.
Officially, no. I have been in communication with someone who has successfully hacked the system, but that's not. They haven't made that public yet of how exactly it's being done. But technically, officially, you do need an ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO to stream into a streaming bridge. Dice has a question for you, Frederick. You said you'd upgrade from Elgato lights. What would you move up to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like these Elgato lights. They're fine. They're overkill for what I need though, because I don't need constant Wi-Fi access to my lights to be able to change color balance and all that. I just need them to be on and work all the time and produce soft light. So I want softer light. So I'm going with. I'm not exactly sure what the head's going to be. I'm going to hopefully scour Tommy's channel to figure out which one I should get. But I'm going to get a new head and then I have a bunch of octaboxes I'm going to put in place. I'm just going to dedicate one to that light behind the camera. Simplify, back to simplification, right? Get rid of 2 lights, go with 1 light. It's softer and it's less complex. So that's what I'm going for.
I like how Tommy's nodding when you mentioned that overkill.
Wi-Fi enabled lights, with color balance and all that. It's a recipe for, disaster. And you guys know how all this stuff is a house of cards, and that's just one thing. I was doing a stream the other day, or a recording the other day, and you get down, you got your coffee, you sit down at the computer, and one light decides, I just don't feel like being on the network today. So then it's 10 minutes of problem solving that. So I just want to get rid of all that complexity and just give me some photons. It's all I need.
You should get something simple like the Aperture 600D and the Space Light.
I don't know what you just said right now.
Yeah, you were explaining your lighting setup, Frederick, and Tommy's like, amateur hour.
Yeah, it is. It is amateur. But hey, look on that. So amateur means doing something for the love of, not for getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Right? So
Then I'm an amateur. It's amateur
you are
hour.
an amateur. You are an amateur. Yeah, that's a good name for a show. Amateur hour.
Chris W. asks if the quality is much higher than Skype TX. I have never used Skype TX because it's so expensive. Those rack-mounted boxes are, what, $8,000 or something like that. I have looked at them for client work and considered it, but no one has ever wanted to spend the money, and I can't say I blame them. And now with this, I mean, this is incredible quality. So, I would say this is definitely something worth considering. One more question from my channel, and then we're going to switch over to Aaron's because I know there's a bunch of questions coming up over there. Curtis Judd, good morning, my friend. Good to see you here. Says, what did you guys do to sound check your levels before the stream, or what would you recommend? What would you recommend? That's a leading question. Curtis knows way more about audio than any of us do, for sure. I made it very simple. All I did here, let me do this. I'll pull this up, and let me just do a quick little switcheroo. Do that. Let's get rid of all this stuff and bring the screen back up. There, so in the ATEM software, so this is the ATEM looking at the big one, the production, the 2ME, the big one. If I go over to my audio, here's my audio coming in on the Mini, so I'm just looking at my levels there. And then here on ASB, that's ATEM Streaming Bridge 1, 2, and 3 are each of theirs. So Tommy, say something?
Oh, wait, check.
I guess I actually had muted them. I forgot this preset actually mutes them, fortunately, since Tommy was being a goof. So try that again, Tommy, and try not to be quite so aggro this time.
Hi, I'm Tommy.
So you can see his audio is coming in here, and then there's everybody else's. And so I just we went through, and I tried to get the levels fairly even. I don't know, you tell me, Curtis, are the levels anywhere near even? Are we doing a decent job of it, or have I totally messed that up as well? All right, let's see here. I'm going to switch over to Aaron's because there's a bunch of questions coming on there as well. Make sure that we are not ignoring his channel. So let me find the first one. Here we go. And, Michael wants us to do the flip clock thing. So we all hold up the clock. Yeah. We all downloaded an app called Atomic Clock, right? Isn't that the one? Yeah. Atomic Clock.
That's the one. Yeah, that should be more accurate than the flip clock one.
So what I would expect, before we bring them up, what I would expect to see is that the three of them will be very close to in sync with each other, but they will all be about a second behind me because obviously they're streaming to me. So let's see here. Let's bring these up. Get this in focus here too. Oh, I guess I could do it that way like everybody else. So if you want to compare it, go ahead and grab a screenshot. Yeah, somebody grab a screenshot and then tell us in the chat what math you came up with. So there we go. All right. Enough of that. Good question. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, and also to see how out of sync or in sync the three of you guys are. Let's see here. Yvonne says, I didn't catch what's being used on guest's end to transmit the video. Yvonne, everything is coming. They're all transmitting using ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Pro ISO, transmitting directly to an ATEM Streaming Bridge, which I don't know if this graphics is going to work right now. Oh, it does. Well, except for those overlays on top of it. There's the ATEM Streaming Bridge. So that's the hardware side of thing on my hardware end of things on my side. Does that make sense? Did I say that right?
There was a question about what's the minimum you could do with just minis. Can you grab that one?
I did miss some. Is it this one? No, that wasn't it. But I see. I need to scroll up farther. So okay, let's hit this one, Michael, and then I'll go back to the beginning. I thought I had scrolled to the top, but apparently not. Michael's asking about the streaming bridge. Can you use more than one streaming bridge to connect to one? Oh, ATEM Pro. Can you send the signal to multiple monitors? Okay, so the ATEM bridge, can you stream to multiple bridges? No. Can you, once you receive it on the bridge has an SDI and an HDMI output. So if you want to have that feed out to multiple devices, then you just introduce a splitter. So you can get relatively inexpensive SDI splitter that'll give you like 4 out or even 8 out, and then you can feed that wherever you want. So that's
the main limitation here is the ATEM Mini Pro can stream to one place at a time.
Right.
And that can be YouTube, it could be Restream, it could be a streaming bridge or whatever, right? But only one of those things at a time.
There you go. Okay, now I'm scrolling back from the beginning of the comments trying to find out what I missed earlier. Oh, that was the first one that I missed, so it must have been somewhere else in here. Let's see here. We'll find it eventually, or if I don't run into it, then Aaron, tell me who asked the question, and I will just do a search on the page for it. Fred Fared says, is there any remote control on the streaming bridge? Is OSC on-screen control in its future? No, the only control you have over that is through, I can actually show that. Bring that up over here and show what this looks like. So we do this and that and this. There we go. Okay, so that's the bridge. So there's 3 bridges in here, 1, 2, and 3. You can see they're all showing as on air. I can actually see the bit rate that's coming in for each one of them. So I'm getting about 5.3, 5.5 megabit on each of them. And if I look in here, it shows me the key. Oh, I probably shouldn't show that. Well, actually, you probably can't overwrite it. But anyway, there's the key info, the IP. And yeah, you couldn't really do this without the file anyway. But this file, is what I send to every guest. And if I go to this external thing here and I click the Save ATEM Settings, that saves out an XML file that I send to them. And that's how they are brought into the show. So that is how that works. Okay. Do I have a diagram of the setup today? No, we didn't do a diagram because that's too many lines and I don't have that much pencil. We probably should, I suppose, but at the high level, it's actually very simple, right? It's just those guys have an ATEM, they're streaming directly to a bridge, my bridge is plugged into another ATEM, and I bring them up on air. All the other stuff is extra on top of that. Aaron, you had done some illustrations before.
Yeah, I did an illustration of when we did the show with just the 2 of us. So there's a diagram of that. But yeah, like you said, it's basically that. It's basically the link between each of our studios and Joseph is an ATEM Mini Pro streaming to a streaming bridge. And then what happens at the other end of both of that is totally like not related to anything else, right? So we all have different studio setups of our own in our own rooms based on our own preferences. And at the end of the day, we're just producing one video feed, pushing that to Joseph. And then Joseph is bringing it in to a gigantic mixer in this case to do the fancy little rectangle boxes and moving around. You think of it in terms of these small blocks all built up together rather than the whole thing all at once. And it's really just a pro streaming to a streaming bridge, and then you've got a video feed that you can then mix into whatever you want. That could be a giant ATEM, it could be software, it could be OBS, vMix, whatever it is.
Right. And I'll reiterate what I said in the beginning too about the setup. I am pushing everything into a big ATEM 2ME, which the only reason I'm using that one is because it gives me the super source, the 4-up that you're seeing now. That's not something you can do in the smaller ATEMs, but you could do this all in software as long as you have a way to get all those streams in. And if you're working with a tower, so either a Mac Pro or any PC tower, then you can use Blackmagic's, I forget the name of the card, but they have a card that has 4 HDMI inputs and it's about $550. And that'll give you all those inputs at once. You could technically also just use a bunch of HDMI to USB adapters. However, you will saturate the USB bus on your computer pretty quickly, and so that's generally not good for more than 1 or maybe 2 cameras on there. Following up on that, someone asked, Harihara asked, does each person have a streaming bridge too? No. Each person who's streaming to do the streaming has to have an ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Pro ISO. Those are the only 2 pieces of hardware that do this. On my end, I have the streaming bridges, so it's from a Pro ISO to a streaming bridge. That's how that works. Alrighty. Chris says, join late. Sorry, does each feed need the 3x switcher? No, the switcher is, everything's feeding into the switcher, and then I'm handling all the switching on this end. Next question from Graham Rule. Using the streaming bridge means all guests need an ATEM, correct? Couldn't you have a bunch of Raspberry Pis so that you could have some guests with lower end systems, for example, a webcam and OBS? Absolutely. Yeah, I could integrate, as long as you can get a video feed to me, I can integrate it into my system somehow. The fact that we're doing this is because we are showing off these ATEM streaming bridges. That's, again, one more shout out here to the DVE store. They're the ones who are sponsoring this by supplying the additional bridges that we needed in here. I love that. I could tap the button and get the animation. It's pretty cool. But as long as you can get me a video feed, I can bring it in. I could even, for example, be using the Mimo Live's own Mimo caller setup and bringing someone in that way, and then they could be calling in just from a webcam, but obviously they wouldn't have the same quality as this. If someone was on Skype, I could bring them in, and it looks like, oh, there, Aaron's back. If someone was on Skype, I could bring them in over an NDI, but as I was explaining earlier, I cannot isolate their audio, which is does make that for a bit more of a challenge. But yeah, we just happen to be showing it off this way right now. Oh, and someone's sending a super chat. Isn't that nice? My room just changed green colors. That means someone sent a green super chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll nice. Find out who that is when we switch back over to my chat room.
Jeffrey Brown.
Oh, Jeffrey Brown. He's my buddy. Thanks, my friend. Does the delay between, this is from Fred for Red, does the delay between Zoom low latency and the ATEM bridge higher latency cause any issues? Why don't we, Frederick,
you tell me.
You tell me. Yeah, Frederick, you tell me what you think. How confusing is it having the delay?
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. You just, it's kind of like muscle. It's like you get used to the delay, right? And your brain kind of adjusts to it. I don't find it disconcerting. I could see if there were multiple people in the room that weren't aware of this kind of just a couple of seconds or milliseconds of delay between what you say and what you see, then it would become kind of a situation where people are stepping on each other. But yeah, I think it's fine it's a fine trade-off for the quality that you're getting on the output.
Yeah, and the delay is just in the video. Thing.
Well, no. So the main delay here, the discrepancy in the delay is only people who are watching on YouTube are seeing it, and what that ends up looking like is that it looks like the three of us are reacting to what Joseph says a second late, or Joseph is reacting to what we're saying a second early. So that's what you'll be seeing as far as the delay there. And it might sound like we're talking over each other, when we are going quickly back and forth like that, because what you're hearing is not what we're hearing in Zoom.
Right, but the flip side of that is in Zoom, because that's how we are all listening to each other is through Zoom. It's like any regular Zoom call, it's virtually real time. However, what the three of them are looking at, they're looking at the program out, so they're looking at the 4-up display right now, the same as the live audience is. That is a second behind. So if you're looking for visual cues, that could be a little bit confusing, but if you kind of turn that part of your brain off and just listen to the audio, then it's much easier for us to not step on each other's toes. But like Aaron said, the live audience will hear a little bit of overlap if we're talking too close to each other.
Exactly.
That.
Okay, that was on purpose. Simon asks, can you do more than 4 inputs in SuperSource with 2 4K 2MEs, or do you need to do it with the 8K constellation as it has 2 super sources? Yeah, you would have to use an 8K constellation to do more than 4 on the SuperSource. I could bring in so the background, the back plate, which is an animated piece right now, that could be a 5th camera, but I can't scale that independently. So it could be, a host that's on the full backplate and then 4 small PIPs. That you could do, and you could bring in 5 that way. And I suppose you could bring in another video source via one of the downstream keys, but that would definitely get a little bit messy. But the super source itself is 4 on the 2ME. All right, so let's see here. A couple more questions on your chat, Aaron, and then we will have caught up on that. Oh, nope, I just lied. There's a huge amount of, wow. Okay, we are definitely not going to get to all these questions. Wow, there's a lot coming in here, guys. I appreciate all the questions. This is a biggie. Let's see here. Questions about tech support on the Blackmagic's call. Blackmagic, please. We can't help out with that right now. How much of the setup could be done on just the ATEM Mini versus the big 2ME?
There we go.
That's a good question. Oh, that's the one you were looking for. Okay. So This is Rick's question. How much of the setup could this be done with an ATEM Mini Pro and or ISO? So not using the 2ME. You could still have all inputs, so I could do exact same with 3 callers coming in, but I couldn't do the 4-up layout that we have right now. I would be limited to 2 up at a time. Basically, one of us would likely be me full screen, and then 1 guest at a time in a picture-in-picture. And you can set that up as a split screen, so I would, for example, let's go back to this, I would, let's say, stand over here on my frame and then put my guest halfway through on this side of it. That's how you would have to do that, because you can't independently move them. But that's the limitation of the standard ATEM versus the big one.
And of course, you lose the ability to also have the background animated graphic and all that kind of stuff, because you can only really do 1 video source, well, 2 video sources on top of the background with the ATEM Mini. So you could do the chat overlay still,
right,
with side-by-side guests with the ATEM Mini Pro, but that's all you would get there.
Right. Couldn't you loop out the HDMI out multi-view and then use that as your screen and then create a 4-up display that way?
I like it.
You can start chaining them. Yeah, it gets real hard to manage. I think actually John Barker from Here to Record did a video about that. I think he showed specifically how to do more than 2 video overlays using 2 ATEM Minis. And yeah, it's a bit of work to put that together.
Impossible is nothing.
Geert says, I don't want to spoil the party, but I've been playing with OBS Ninja, I'm not sure what Ninja is, and 2 ATEMs. It is completely web-based and can achieve good call-in results. Do you guys have experience with that? I don't. Aaron, is that anything you've played with?
I've poked around with it, but I haven't actually used it for like a real test yet. Definitely interesting though. It's basically think of it like a Zoom call, but you get ISOs out of it.
Oh, cool.
So if you can like move one person over to a dedicated screen and then capture that kind of stuff. Definitely looks cool.
And what is OBS Ninja? Is that a separate OBS app?
It's a website.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
yep.
obs.ninja is the website.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, I am going to jump out of the Q&A here for a moment because I want to show a little bit more of how things are happening, specifically now the graphics. So as I said in the beginning, the graphics are all running through Mimo Live. So let me pull that screen up and then I will show you what that looks like. So let me turn all these graphics off, bring up the screen, And let's get rid of the infinite loop. So this is Mimo Live, and Mimo Live allows me to bring in, to create all these different text layers where, like, here's, for example, the name. So there's my name, and I have it in a position for a 1-up layout or for a 4-up layout. It probably makes it more sense to go to like Tommy here. So there's Tommy's on the 1-up layout and the 4-up positioning. So I can have these different positionings for all of those. And then there's the DV animation, so that DV store animation that comes up. And then the chat, well, actually, we'll come back to the chat because that's a bit more complicated. Each one of these pieces goes up onto the stage, and I have presets that I can run to trigger the ones on and off that I want to simultaneously. The output is happening through a Blackmagic Ultra Studio 4K Mini. So let me pull that up. Let me get that interface over on the screen here. Just a moment. Find the right app here. Nope, that's not the right app. Is that the right app? Yep, there we go. So let me bring this on the screen. There you go. So there, the Ultra Studio 4K Mini is hardware that allows me, it's a Thunderbolt device that has dual SDI outputs. It can output both the video and an alpha channel. And so that video and alpha, and you can kind of see this setup over here. Well, I guess if I turn it off now, and then I can see how that's going. It's keying off of an external key that's coming off of the out of the software, and the device is streaming to is the 4K Mini. So basically, it's just outputting that signal as a dual SDI stream into the big ATEM, which then gets overlaid. So then, let's see here. The chat itself is quite interesting because the chat is coming in off of a. Let's see if I can switch. Let me try and do this right. Show this again. If I do this and sorry, there's so much going on at once here. Okay, here we go. So this laptop right here is full screen mirrored to an input on the Mac that is, right now I'm just using one of the little Blackmagic mini recorders. And so this Mac sees that as a separate monitor. So that mini recorder, let's come back to this. That mini recorder shows up as full screen chat here, which, let me open this up. If I look at the original, here is the screen. That's the screen that I'm looking at. I have then, using this chroma key filter that's in Mimo Live, I have cropped out the top part, keyed out the green, and that gives me this. So there's this floating piece on here. So that is then laid on top of the chat. So that can go in there along with other things. So like the chat is live right now, along with Tommy's name or whatever. I can bring all those up at a time. And so that's how all of this is coming in. And it's a little bit confusing to look at from this perspective, but that is effectively how all of that is tied in. And now let me see if I can go back to the right setup there. And then I tap on my screen. I have a little kind of presets here. I tap the guest name button, for example. It takes out the chat and brings up the 4 names like that. And then as I go to each individual, so if I go to Aaron's screen on his own, I then simultaneously have to tap the Aaron preset to bring up just his name. And you can see that I've got myself put in there as a picture-in-picture. And if I want to turn that off, then of course I can do that in the ATEM software as well. Oh, so a lot of this is done. It's kind of 2 systems together, and so that's why I have multiple control decks in front of me, and why I said in the beginning that trying to do this on your own is kind of crazy to be doing it and be part of the show, which is why there's mistakes happening, but this is how that's running. So so that part of it's pretty cool. And I'm excited to be able to bring in Aaron's chat system. That is, by the way, that's Aaron's chat that he developed, and he's made some custom tweaks for me that are all available to everybody right now, but giving me the ability to resize things and to highlight the question. So that's why there's the thing that comes up here that says, hey, make sure you write the word question in your question. That way it gets highlighted in my chat view, and I know that this is one that I want to pay attention to. So that's how all that is working. With that said, let's switch back over to my chat and pull up the questions again. And let's see where we're at. So I hit my preset that fades off your names, brings up the chats. There was Curtis's last question, and we'll bring up the next one here from Junaid, who says, how are you bringing all the fun animations and scrolls? Well, look at that. It's almost like it was timed. We just answered that one. Oh, interesting. On the timing, Nathan says it looks like about 0.6 seconds total difference. So that's good. We're doing good today then. That is very good. Junaid also asked, what software are you using to broadcast to YouTube? So I'm doing my stream via hardware encoder, the Epiphan Pearl 2, which is streaming to Restream.io, which is then restreaming out to my YouTube channel, Facebook, a bunch of other places, and also to Aaron's YouTube channel. So that's how that is happening. Can Frederick, Tommy, and Aaron also switch their cameras? They can. You guys want to show that again real quick?
Sure. Ooh, whoop. Here you go.
So remember, the thing is that they're sending me from their ATEM Mini. So anything that they do on their ATEM Mini, if they added an overlay, if they change camera angles, any of that is going to show up on their feed here. So. All right, let's see. Koto asks, what would be your best recommendation on bringing guests with Skype, WebEx, or Zoom into the show? Aaron, other than screen scraping, is there anything better?
I mean, what I've got here with running my Zoom into the ATEM, this is my Zoom window, but I could like pin a guest, right? So I can go, can I click it? Let me click it. Pin this video, and now Tommy's basically full screen on mine.
Yep.
So now I can switch between Tommy and myself, right? So that's okay using the pinned video feature in Zoom. But it's a little messier, I would say.
Yeah.
Before I figured any of this out, one time I FaceTimed someone and then I just recorded my computer screen with a separate camera angle. It was pretty lame, but it worked.
There you go.
It works. You know, you do what you got to do. You do whatever it takes to make it work. That is for sure. Oh, my goodness. Jeffrey Brown, thank you very much. You're correct to being about 1 second ahead of the other clock. So I thank you, Jeffrey. Good to see you, my friend. Let's see here. Culture's full of questions today. What would be your recommendation of bringing in guests with a smartphone to a show run on an ATEM Mini? Any of you guys have any familiar with any apps that give a clean output from an iPhone or from an Android phone?
Yeah, there's a couple, and I keep forgetting which one is the right one because some of them claim they do and then they don't work very well.
Filmic Pro recently added an option for clean HDMI out, although I haven't played with it. But I would look at Filmic Pro.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember.
Are you trying to use the phone as your camera, or are you trying to record the person calling you? Because if you're trying to record the person calling you, honestly, FaceTime and then plug the HDMI into your ATEM and then just crop out the little FaceTime window. It worked really well for me after I figured out how to do it.
Yeah, if you're bringing in just one caller, then in general, set up a separate device, whether it's a iOS device, a mobile device, or a computer, and just go HDMI into the ATEM and do a screen mirroring, right? And then that gives you that full screen on the ATEM, and then you can crop it and reposition it as a picture-in-picture however you want to. And if you're using an ATEM Mini Pro ISO, you could even record that full screen ISO with that bot, with the ATEM, which would be pretty slick as well. It's when you start adding multiple additional callers that things get a lot more complicated, a lot more quickly. But yeah, that should definitely work. Curtis Jett had another question for Frederick. If you upgrade from a Mix Pre, what would you ideally use instead?
Yeah, so I haven't tried this microphone yet, but the Shure MV7 is I don't know if it's a side grade, but it's the next model from Shure in the SM7B line. And the reason for going for that one, that I want to look at it, is it has multiple outputs on it. It's got XLR out as well as USB. So if I'm traveling, I could just plug it into my MacBook, or I could use it in a studio setup plugged in, this way. And it eliminates the need for that cloud lifter to bring the gain up on this microphone, which is notoriously low. So again, eliminating another piece of kit from underneath my desk. So that's why I'm looking at it. I don't know what the quality is like of that microphone, so I want to test it before I actually introduce it permanently. But that's the mindset, just to eliminate some stuff and to give me more capability to be running and gunning and using the same microphone.
Right on. Dice asks, you mentioned that one person wouldn't ideally perform all the duties you're handling right now. In a live production, how big of a team would you need? So the whole thing is because I'm on camera plus trying to do all this, which makes it confusing, and you keep seeing me look down as I'm controlling things, which is obviously not ideal. So you should have at least one person who's a producer and then let the guest just be guest. That would be much better. Given that I'm using two separate systems, both the switching system and the overlay system, in an ideal world, maybe one person would run the overlay and someone else, meaning all the motion graphics and that, and somebody else would run the switching. That'd be nice. Or tie the systems together. And the systems, the way I have it set up, can't really be tied together easily, although that's definitely something to explore. But yeah, the more people, the better, often when it comes to this sort of thing. Nathan says, have you considered using BitFocus Companion? Don't know this. To manage macros on multiple devices. Does BitFocus integrate with the fancier gear? I'm not familiar with this.
Someday I'm going to turn Joseph into the dark side of Companion and get him rigged up with the Stream Deck to do all this, because it's perfect for like, you need to press one button and tell two things to do something at the same time. Perfect for that. So like, I've got buttons on here to turn on, like, to switch an input on my switcher and then switch to that angle on the ATEM, or switch my monitors around, or turn on and off my lights even, so I can control my hair light with the buttons on that. So it's someday we'll have to convert Joseph into that world.
Because that's what I need, is more hardware, right?
And Aaron, you're controlling all that stuff through the Stream Deck or some other device?
Yeah, on my desk I have a Stream Deck, and it's just got a bunch of pages of buttons, and some of them do light control of like turning on and off my room lights. Kind of see things get darker when I do that. But then this page is for, that's just like Z-Wave switches, like just controlling the power on the lights. Okay. But then like these run macros in 2 different ATEMs, as well as I can like, I can change my background light after the super chat. I can make it go back to white. I can do animations on the hyperdeck, queuing those up. I can reassign my monitors through my SDI switcher, all from that. I don't want to touch anything because it's going to like mess things up. But yeah, it's a good system. I'm a big fan of it.
And you did a video on that a while back. I watched, Aaron, and I was all hot and heavy into like macros are the way forward. But I don't know if this has changed. I think this has changed. I think the Stream Deck, or not the Stream Deck, but the ATEM Mini Pro was having trouble remembering settings. So my issue, maybe it was a bug in mine, but my issue was I can't go through the hassle of getting everything set up and dialed in perfectly, and then unplug it and plug it back in and have everything gone. So
it's totally fine. So like, you can either do the save internally by doing the save settings, save startup state button in the interface, or my preferred way is to just export the whole thing as a file onto your computer using the XML export. And that way you get like a file that you can always restore back into an ATEM. Nice. And that also means if you like upgrade to an ISO, eventually you just pick up that file and restore it into the ISO, and you have all your same settings that way.
Awesome. Okay, cool. There goes my weekend.
Yep.
And FYI, guys, we're already at the hour mark. So I don't know about you. I can go for another 15, 20 minutes or so before I'm going to have to bail. Are you guys good for a little bit longer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as
not
there's
much
a question
longer
for
than
me
that.
at some point.
Somebody asked Tommy a question. Sorry, buddy.
Tommy knows everything about lights, so ask him about lighting.
Ask him about lighting. Although at this point, there's no way we're going to get to the questions that are farther down the stream. Is Aaron going to publish the chat add-on with the filter? That's already published. That I saw that, Aaron, this morning. That went up.
It is live.
It is live.
Should be live. So just if you've installed it through the Chrome store, you should get that update already.
Yep.
And it now lets you set custom highlight words.
It's very, very handy. Very handy. Many need this, want to start a company. I already got one. I don't know about you guys.
I don't. Go hire Joseph.
Have you tried using Casper CG and Sophie TV automation? I have not. Anybody else? No. Not something I'm familiar with. I should probably take a screenshot of that and try to remember to see it. Screenshot.
Yeah, something to look into.
Come back to that later. Look, there's a little screenshot pop up in the corner that didn't get keyed out. See? So that just shows you kind of limitation of this system. You can see my mouse right now because that's obviously not getting keyed out. Because that's what we're looking at. We're literally looking at a mirror of my laptop screen over there. There's an app called Shoot. There are
this was the ISO phone.
Oh, that question. Okay.
Phone apps for clean HDMI out.
Got it. Cool. Janaid asking if I could use a Stream Deck. Clearly, I've been educated that I must use Stream Deck, so I'll have to do that. Let me switch over to Aaron's chat because it's. I think there's more questions showing up over there. And let's see what's going on in this room. How do you synchronize the 4 of you if we're to be voices in sync? Ooh. If you need it perfectly
again,
sync.
the delay that you're seeing on YouTube, you're not going to see any delay. Like, each person will look in sync with themselves. Like, my audio will be in sync with my video because I'm sending a synced signal through the streaming bridge. All of us are doing that. We're all going to look in sync to our own video. The delay that you're seeing, which hopefully was captured in the screenshot of the clocks, but Joseph is ahead of all of us because there's a delay in what the three of us are sending to him. So if we do quick back and forths, we're going to step on each other's toes to the audience, but not to each other because we're hearing ourselves in real time.
Right.
And it's really subtle, and everyone's saying that it's not a problem. So like I'm seeing a bunch of comments in here of like, it looks fine. Because in real life, people do talk over each other, and we aren't perfectly timed
Exactly.
anyway, so
Wait, this would be an interesting test. Let's just count. I'll say 1, Tommy gave 2, Aaron 3, Frederick 4.
Let's not do it. It's going to be a mess.
But just like a couple of
The
rounds.
reason is because... No, oh my god, no, I think we did this before. It does not work.
Wait,
The
what am I
problem is
doing?
we can't actually count in sync because there is a delay in Zoom. So
But it's very
there's
minimal.
a very slight
1,
delay in Zoom.
2,
But it'd be minimal. Okay, so
3,
I say 1,
4,
Tommy says 2,
4.
Aaron says 3, Frederick says 4, but we'll go at like a half-second pacing. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? All right, ready? Let's go.
Okay.
1.
2.
2, 3, 4. Wait,
4.
damn it.
Right, so
Can't
am I
count that
2?
high, man.
I'm 2, right?
Yeah, you're 2. Let's try that again.
Okay.
And after Frederick does 4, I'm going to go back. And don't wait for the other... Well, that's why I want to keep going a few rounds, because try to get into a
I see,
cycle,
I
not
see.
necessarily waiting for the next person. So, ready?
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Tom.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize. Go ahead.
Last try. 1,
2.
3,
4.
1.
2.
3.
4.
Yeah, this isn't working. Okay.
Okay, we're doing half seconds, right?
Yeah, it was
Or
supposed to
you
be
could
half
just try
seconds.
all
How about we
clapping
move
and
on to
unison.
people's
Yeah, that was
actual
really
questions?
I was doing quarter notes.
Go Web Technology says, do you need a static IP at any end for a setup like this? You don't need it, but it does facilitate things. So that would be on my end that would be helpful, because I have to generate a XML file that goes out that I send to the three of them. Each one gets a unique file, allowing them to connect directly to my bridge. If my IP changes, because I'm on a dynamic IP setup, then that will break. So it definitely is helpful for me to have a static IP. But most ISPs don't refresh it if you don't reboot your modem, and maybe even longer after that, they'll hold on to it. So if you reboot your modem, you get an IP address, send that out, you should be fine until you reboot again. Does the streaming bridge receive an RTMP stream? It is a customized stream. It is RTMP, but it is customized. So you can't just send it from anywhere. Someone had asked that before. There is somebody out there who is working very hard on hacking it, but that's not out publicly yet. Are there any end-to-end peer-to-peer video solutions that can produce better video than Zoom?
I mean, OBS.Ninja does a good job too. I think Zoom handles like flaky connections better and better scaling, like downscaling when there's lower bandwidth and recovering from those situations. But as far as just like pushing high quality video through good connections, yeah, OBS.Ninja is fine.
Cool. My buddy Jeffrey Brown is saying that, Tommy, your setup is nicer than mine. So he's just doing that to piss me off.
Oh, he's right, though.
I mean, yeah, he's not wrong.
Wow.
It's the lighting.
It's all about the lighting. Well, and he's younger and better looking than me, so that helps too, for sure. But that's okay. That's okay. Jeffrey's older than me, so we're good.
I'm not the one that was paid to be here.
Ooh.
Oh, dang. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go back to the other chat room because I think there was some more in here, and then we're going to have to wrap this thing up. Let's see here. There we go. Oh, no, we already had that one. Home internet connections. That one we've addressed. Let's see. There are so many. Flip clock we did. I'm going to scroll down to the end and go backwards just to make it fair for people who came in later. Questions: is Teams better than Zoom for quality? Never use it.
I've never used Teams.
Never used Teams. I have not. Nobody here has
Not
used
even
Teams. Nope.
I wouldn't say Zoom is good for quality. Zoom is good for real-time communications.
Yeah.
You're not doing Zoom because you're looking for the highest quality
Right.
picture. Like, it'll scale your video down to 320 by 180 if it needs to, which is great for getting your message across, but not good for like quality.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that Skype is probably better for quality. I've seen a better quality image come in from Skype on some of the group commercial stuff that I've done than Zoom for sure. But yeah, Zoom has great failover. It just works. Tommy, here's an actual question for you, my friend. What's your thoughts on the Godox SL60?
I already answered in the chat.
Answer it here. I didn't see it in the chat.
I think it's still a great buy if you've only got like $120 to buy a light. It's
Awesome.
Solid piece of kit.
Perfect.
Have you played with Loop Deck yet? Have you tried passing macros that way into the ATEM system? I have not used Loop Deck.
I bought a loop deck, and I was super excited about it for actually using it for video editing. And I was like, oh, maybe I can also use it for scripting, stuff like that. And one of the buttons like broke within about a week of me using it. And I don't press hard on these buttons. So I just returned it and I gave up on it. I was like, no, I don't want to deal with this.
That's too bad. That's too bad. Velen asking, can you make the animations automatic for a scene, names and socials, etc.? Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to automatically make things come up timing-wise. Mimo Live actually doesn't, which is why I'm having to reach down to tap something to trigger it when I want. But that action that you just saw is obviously animated, and if I tap another shortcut, it's going to drop those away and bring this up. And I tap another one that starts the scrolling thing across the top, and I tap another one that brings in the thanks to the sponsored DVE store animation. So once again, if you're going to do any shopping, head down to the description. You'll see DVE store and the links on there. Click on them to make your purchases. Thank you guys at the DVE store. But other than that, I think that something like Stream Deck would allow you to do some timed automations, right? Right. So yet another reason I need to look at that.
Timed? I'm not sure about that. Maybe within Companion. Not sure.
Not sure.
You can do it with macros in the ATEM itself.
In the ATEM,
video
yeah.
about
In the
that
ATEM, you can do timings. So yeah. So for example, if I do, let's see here. Let me do this. I'll switch over to Tommy's image, and then I'm going to tap. I have a preset here, a macro that is going to fade into his page for just a moment, and then it's going to fade back. And that was completely automated. It was scripted, right? So, wait. So that's how that worked. There we go. All right, let's go back to this. Paul says, assuming you all have a really great internet connection, what's the maximum quality of video you can send and receive? What is the highest bitrate that the ATEM Mini Pro will do?
70 megabits is what I think it caps out at.
Okay.
And I've pushed that between my home and my studio, no problem, to a streaming bridge.
That's a lot of megabits for a 1080p video. That is completely and totally overkill by a long stretch. We're all pushing, or they're all pushing about 5.5, 6 megabit to me right now. That's what I'm getting. So they're all pushing 6 something. What I'm getting is about 5.5, and it's. I mean, well, you guys can see the video quality. I think it looks pretty darn good here.
When we were testing, we were sending 30, both of us at the same time, at one point.
Your connection has multiple IP addresses, correct? So no. On my side, it's a single IP address, but there's routing. What do you call it? Aaron, help me.
Port forwarding.
Port forwarding. Port forwarding set up in my router. So that is something you have to set up. It's fairly straightforward. I think it could be better documented, but it's fairly straightforward. But yeah, I just go into my router, set up port forwarding for each one of my streaming bridges. Each one of them I assign a fixed IP address within my studio so that it doesn't get a different IP address when it reboots. And then there's one public IP address plus the port forwarding that allows this to happen. Do you have to use headphones not for Zoom, right? Yeah, Zoom is really good at noise echo cancellation, but here we are all on headphones because you will still get some showing up.
Well, and again, on YouTube, you're not hearing Zoom audio. You're hearing
Right.
audio directly from my mic. So if I had speakers in here, there would be no noise cancellation, echo cancellation happening. So you would hear feedback,
Right.
or echoes, I guess.
Yeah, that's true, right? So we'd have the benefit of the noise cancellation on Zoom, but what the audience is hearing, they would not. They would not. Okay, let's do one more question, then we're going to wrap this thing up. Let's see here. This is from Jamaker. How hard was it like to use Stream Bridge over remote locations? I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
I mean, it doesn't really matter that it's remote in the end. Once you get the port forwarding set up, that's the main sort of stumbling block or the hurdle there. Get port forwarding set up, and then in the ATEM setup app, you export the settings, and whether or not it's remote or local doesn't even matter at that point. And you import them to the ATEM, and you just hit go.
And that's all there is to it.
Nice.
Super.
It's well done.
Alrighty. Well, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it. We're gonna wrap this thing up right now. Any parting words? And sorry, Tommy, we didn't get more questions for you, buddy. Next time. You should see. This is why you should have streamed
well.
this on your channel as well. We would have gotten more questions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so loquacious.
We're good. Next time.
Any parting words, Tommy, before we move this thing on?
Buy lights, obviously.
From his channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Tommy's channel.
Yeah, I have so many affiliate links. They're all very good. You should use all of them.
The more expensive the product, the better, right?
Exactly.
Aaron.
Yeah, have fun streaming. I mean, it's always a blast doing this kind of stuff and experiment, try stuff out, watch my videos, watch Joseph's videos on the ATEM, watch Here to Record on the ATEM. Lots of good ATEM videos out there.
That there are. Frederick?
I echo that. Watch these guys' videos because they're chock full of bank account draining information. So
That much
definitely
is true.
check them out.
That much is true. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. All of those are our Twitter handles, whatever, down at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you're following everybody on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe here on the YouTubes to all of our channels. And I guess that's it. Now I'm going to tap my show close macro, which I realized was not set up for this show, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen when I hit that button. But one way or another, great, something's going to happen. We'll see. And hey, this stream.
Give this video a thumbs up.
Yeah, give the video a thumbs up. This stream. Oh, incidentally, the questions or this stream is going to remain on the channel, so all the live questions are all still going to be there. I don't know that we'll be able to go back through and answer all of them, but feel free to post another question later on, and that way it'll show up well, at least in my feed, and I will hopefully be able to address it. So, with that, thank you very.
If you tweet me, I'll answer it.
Tweet Tommy. Somebody took off their headphones. See, there's that echo. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.